Pittsburgh Steelers fans, this is behind the steel curtain editor Dave Schofield coming at you on a Sunday night. This is a little bit unusual, unless it was a Steelers game, but there's not. And joining me is Geoffrey Benedict. Geoffrey, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, Dave. Doing good.
Yeah, well, we're still trying to line up a regular Sunday YouTube show for BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. And while we're trying to get this all together, we didn't want to leave you all hanging or without anything on a Sunday. So I just thought, hey, I'll just come on and answer some questions, and we'll do one of our Q&A shows. And then when I thought about it, I'm like, Geoffrey, you want to join me? He's like, I'm in. So here we are. This is our No Football Sunday Blues show because, Geoffrey, did you feel it today? This was the first Sunday where it's over. I mean, you could say the week before the Super Bowl there really wasn't football because there was the Pro Bowl, which, I watched a few minutes of it. But this is really the signal that it's over. Did you think about that at all?
I actually like bye weeks. I like the breaks in the season.
Yeah,
because I watch a lot of film. So it's kind of nice to get that change. So this week I'm still like, wow, I'm kind of in that turmoil. I don't know what I'm doing this week. What am I watching? Like, there's all the stuff going on. So I've got a huge backlog of stuff to watch. So I was actually glad that today there wasn't any football to watch live because I've got so much I'm trying to catch up on, especially with the two new hires the Steelers have. But
we'll get into that.
give me a few weeks and I'm going to be like, oh, is there something new? And then by the end of middle of summer, I'm going to be like, when can I get new film? Like, when we get a new game to watch? That's
how I am. I'm like, I want new data. Yeah. That's what I say all off season. But I mean, you can watch the film and it's great to watch this film, but to me, it's just not the same knowing what's going to happen. Well,
there's a lot I really want to break into and really dig into. I've got like a backlog list of things, but once I get about halfway through that, I'll be like, you know what? I'm tired of this. Like, I want something new. Right? Yeah, but it's nice to have a chance to really dig into it, because when you're watching it, you got articles to do. You can watch the game like 4 times, but there's still plays you haven't been able to really dig into and look at, things you want to, analyze a little bit further.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Before we dig into the football, I've got to ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you get a holiday tomorrow?
Yes.
Being President's Day, just
yes.
Was wondering, didn't know.
And by holiday, I
mean
the actual opposite of a holiday. Normally,
you have to deal with the kids.
Normally, my Mondays is me at home doing work. It's just me, and it's a break. I just get to kind of dive into my own stuff. And tomorrow, I've got the kids, and my wife is home as well. So it's all of us. So we got events planned. It's going to be crazy.
Oh, there you go. See, tomorrow is President's Day. If you're listening to this in podcast form, that would already be today. But it's interesting because growing up, my father always referred to it as something that one of his friends called it. He called it Residence Day because the weather was always so bad, you had to stay in your residence. But for my family, I always thought that wasn't too bad. For my individual family, when my daughter was in preschool, she got upset and wanted to know where her present was because it was President's Day instead of President's Day. And what was interesting is I actually, had picked up something on clearance after Christmas and had it stashed away. I'm like, oh, we have a present for you. Guess what that did? That established a tradition that I am now stuck with, that for my family, tomorrow is President's Day. So my kids expect presents. So It's not exactly a holiday for me either in that regard. It adds a little bit of stress to it. But hey, we kind of just wanted to talk a little bit, get caught up to make sure we got some people here in the live chat, because what this show is going to consist of is your questions. We are looking right now. I'm starting at the beginning, whether it's a YouTube question, whether it's a Facebook Live question. We are just basically going to be here for, about a half an hour answering questions. So until I get one that comes up, I'm going to ask you, Geoffrey, your very short answer. I don't want a Brian Anthony Davis 18-minute answer. I want your short answer of the Steelers' 2 coaching hires from this week.
Okay. The offensive line coach, I don't know how good of a job he will do, but he fits the scheme. He's used to coaching what Matt Canada wants to run. So we'll give him a shot. We'll see if he's good at it, but he fits what the Steelers want. Brian Flores, to me, we'll probably get some questions about that. I'm excited for this hire. I am very excited for this hire. I think a lot of people are, and it's a fantastic move. I love it.
Yeah, my general thoughts on that. Now, I did a special breaking news podcast with Jeff Hartman yesterday, about an hour after the news went down. We couldn't do it during the news going down because we were both coaching a 4th and 5th grade basketball game. But when we talked about it, I always thought, hey, it would be the question was, are they going to hire another another defensive assistant like Terrell Austin was? Were they going to hire an outside linebacker coach like Keith Butler? The ultimate goal was if you could do kind of what a Terrell Austin was and have them do both roles. But did you have the right person that could do that? To me, this hire knocks that out of the park because it's someone who's been there, done that, coached the linebackers in New England with various other stuff, but that's what he was known for the most at the end, when even though he wasn't the defensive coordinator, he was calling the defensive plays his last year there, correct, Geoffrey?
Yep. Yeah, 2018 when they won the Super Bowl and held the Rams to 3 points.
Yeah,
and Flores' defense.
And then he is the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. We kind of know how that all went down. Some Miami Dolphins fans came in and chimed in on some stuff both on our website and on our YouTube channel. And some of what they had to say was, hey, this is good for you guys because we were terrible. 8 games into the season, Flores took over calling the defense and they won 7 straight games. And the defense looks pretty good. So some people are excited, some people aren't. Just thought I'd get your general thoughts on that. So I'm going to dive into questions here. So I love butchering names, so I picked a great one to start with. Eugene Chirikov. I think I might have got it. I don't know. Maybe I'm close. Says, what do you think will happen with our linebacker core in general? Geoffrey, you want to go first here?
It's going to be interesting. I don't think Devin Bush, Alex Highsmith, or TJ Watt are going anywhere. I think we're going to see the Steelers again try to add a third body at that outside linebacker group. They've been doing it. I don't know how much they like Taco Charlton and Derek Tuska. Those guys did well. Those guys are options to bring back too. But beyond
Tuska's back. Taco's a free agent. Yeah.
Yes. They could bring back Charlton if they want. That's an option. The big question is, who's next to Devin Bush? Yeah. I don't think we see Joe Schobert back. He doesn't fit Brian Flores. Brian Flores' defense, inside linebackers or blitzers. You have to be able to blitz. You're going to see more the type of linebackers that Steeler fans want to see. His scheme allows, and especially if you look at the Patriots scheme, if you look at how Miami does it, it allows for linebackers who aren't as good in coverage because you just don't send them into coverage. You put in defensive backs if you want coverage, and if you send in a linebacker, you're sending him in there to be aggressive. So I think this is the kind of scheme we can see a more aggressive, a more tackling linebacker come in and not really have to be in coverage as much, and we can see Devin Bush take that kind of a role. I think he's going to be good for everyone involved. That's my opinion. But if you're going to add someone next to Devin Bush, it's going to be someone who can blitz.
Yeah. Okay. I can agree with that. I don't know if you know this. This could be a question for you to ponder to answer at another time on another podcast. Is there a particular maybe free agent out there that would fit into that role now that Brian Flores is in the mix?
Yeah, that's something I'm going to be looking at.
It might not have been someone that we thought, 36 hours ago, but now is someone. I don't have the answer there. I don't expect you to have that off the top of your head unless you already looked at it, but that's something that we're going to want to look at and answer in the future. All right. For me, my answer to that question is I'm hoping it gets better, but honestly, you've got to have the defensive line taking up the blockers. And that was something you even mentioned in our Slack channel of how he likes to align the defensive front to do those kind of things. To use up the blockers to leave the linebackers free. That's the strength of Devin Bush. He didn't have it last year. Yes, he's still getting over the injury, but hopefully maybe he can get completely healed up from that and have a better situation in front of him, and he can get back to his strengths, which is ultimately what the Pittsburgh Steelers try to do with all their players, is to put them in a situation which builds to their strengths the most. And Devin Bush was not put in that situation this past year. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly with that one.
Yeah. So, all right. So, moving on. Michael O'Malley. Flores bolsters the staff. Does he have an extended role? I think we kind of just answered that. Do you think it's going to be similar to last year where it was kind of Austin and Butler together? I mean, we believe that's kind of what they were doing. Austin's handling the secondary. Butler had the up front, and they're going to do that with Flores.
Well, what Flores is known for is his blitzes.
Yeah.
Very aggressive,
just like
zero
Butler.
blitzes, crazy stuff where you're taking what the offensive line wants to do and you're dictating to the offense what they're going to be able to do. And that is how the Steelers ran it with Butler, is much more, instead of just reacting to the offense and trying to, slow them down, go after them, force their hand, take things away from them and just say, you're not going to be able to do this because we're sending people. I love it. I think he's going to be great in that role. It's a good fit. It's a perfect fit. And I think he will have that kind of extended role.
I will say I would prefer them to not send a zero blitz on third and whatever it was, like we saw in 2019 on Monday night.
Don't do that to Ben Roethlisberger. It's Ben Roethlisberger.
It was Mason Rudolph, wasn't it?
No, Mason. Oh gosh, Mason lit him up too. That's right.
That's what I'm saying. They sent everybody on that third and whatever.
Mason Rudolph destroyed the Dolphins.
Yeah, but that was that. I'm thinking of that one specific play where they sent everybody and left them one-on-one. DJ runs across the middle and runs for a touchdown. It was.
I think there was a little bit of someone knew what they were running. In our defensive side that was able to be like, look, when they do this, this is what they're doing.
Remember,
I think Minka helped in that game.
That was also the whole evidence for showing that the Dolphins really weren't wanting to win games. People use that play as an example. Anyway, I'm going to throw that there. This is a very similar question, but I am going to bring it up because it came from Facebook. This was from PJ Gildernew. Did I get that right? I don't know. What will the Steelers plan, or what will be the Steelers plan for IL or for middle linebacker? That has to be one of the worst positions of last year. We kind of addressed that. Anything else you want to say about it before you go on?
They are going to stick with Devin Bush through his entire rookie contract. They will not get rid of him during his rookie contract, and he's going to have a chance to redeem himself. I think you're going to see more of them, just like Dave said, try to get the guys in front of him to keep him clean, because that's how you get a lot out of Devin Bush.
Do you think it goes so far that they have to really think about that fifth-year option? I've said that I think they're going to do it anyway.
They keep the fifth-year option? That's a good question.
Yeah, because that's comes around, I think, in May.
Yeah,
I said I really wish we had another year of Devin Bush before he had to make the decision. Personally, I said when Jeff asked me that, I think they're even. This was before Flores. I thought they would do it just because of the capital that they invested in Devin Bush. That they would say $10.5 million was worth it. We'll see.
And if he bounces back, you're going to get him way more than that.
Yes, exactly. So, hey, Felicia, Felicia Ballard has a question, says, I like the Flores, but wondering, how will the flow go between, is that Mike? Is she talking about Tomlin and Flores? I was making sure she meant Mike and not Minka, because she said Minka later. Not worried about the Minka situation. The whole, Brian Flores was the coach. Minka Fitzpatrick wanted out. I don't know if there's a problem there. Minka Fitzpatrick loves Terrell Austin, and Terrell Austin's still going to be in charge of what he's doing back there. So hopefully these guys can all work together. What do you think about I almost look at it as like a defensive three-headed monster between Tomlin, Austin, and Flores. Do you kind of think that's how it's going to be?
Flores is I think it will be. Flores is kind of a fiery personality.
Yeah.
You read anything about him, like he fought his way up. That's a guy who's not going to back down. And you saw he stand up to the league and he's saying, you know what? They tried to get me to tank and the interviews were shams. He's not going to take that stuff. He's going to be a fiery personality in that room. And I think that's fine. Mike Tomlin can handle that. They're experienced. They're used to dealing with that. We'll see how he does with the different players. I don't think there was a personal problem between him and Minka Fitzpatrick. They liked him at strong safety. and their strong safety turns into a linebacker on their
Yeah.
dime plays. And he did not. That's not. You've seen Minka in the box. That's not Minka.
Absolutely.
That's not Minka. Put him deep. Let him play the ball.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to roll on to this one. This isn't really a question, it's a statement, but we're going to respond to it. Robert Ellison says, please tell me the Steelers aren't seriously thinking about Carson Wentz next season.
I hope I'm with you. I can repeat that exact thing for me. Please.
Yeah.
Please, Steelers, tell us you're not considering Carson Wentz. No.
Yeah. And especially if you think about what Carson Wentz's price tag was for the Colts to get him, how much they had to pay him. I mean, if you're talking about Carson Wentz coming in for what you're paying Mason Rudolph, just to have somebody else in the mix, that's a completely different story.
The brief stint he had where he was an MVP candidate in that offense, that offense was loaded. It was really well run. And he is 2-3 major injuries away from being since then. I'm not taking chances on that. That's too many injuries.
Yeah. So just making sure we got something good here. How about PJ's got another one, Gildernew, right? He says, why is keeping Bush a must? He's too small, doesn't tackle well, and last year showed he can't cover either. Geoffrey, dissect.
He struggled in coverage early. He struggled in coverage when he was hurt, when he came back with the groin injury. As he bounced back, he was getting better. Remember, he got his hands on a ball, tipped it up. It was intercepted. He deflected another one. He dropped an interception. Towards the end of the year, he was starting to be better in coverage again. He is small. He does tackle well in open space. He doesn't take on blockers well at all. But the Steelers got him knowing that. He is here to be a coverage linebacker. That's what he's here to do. The problem is last year, they had no run stoppers. They didn't have run stoppers on the defensive line outside of Cameron Hayward. They didn't have it at linebacker. Joe Schobert wasn't that guy. Like if you didn't run into Cameron Hayward or TJ Watt, there was no one. There was no one on that defense that was a real run stuffer. So there's a problem there. But the reason I say they won't get rid of him till his rookie season is over is because he's cheap. To replace what Devin Bush gave you last year, where he was roughly equivalent to Joe Schobert. Go look at their numbers.
Look at how much it'll cost.
Yeah. Joe Schobert's more expensive than Devin Bush. And he gives you what Devin Bush gave you last season.
Yeah.
Like they were equivalent most of the year. And I think towards the end, Bush was better than Schobert. And Bush is cheaper than Schobert because he's on a rookie deal. He will play. And also, how old is Devin Bush right now? Like really? Devin Bush.
24, maybe 23? 24?
He's 23.
Is he?
He's going to turn 24 this summer.
Oh wow.
He's 23. He's going to be on this team.
Yeah. So here's something to remember. Okay. Look at what I think were the three most concerning areas that I didn't last year. I mean, I might be wrong. I'm just going to throw these three out there because they kind of fit what I'm going to say. Offensive line, defensive line, inside linebacker. Look at what happened. David DeCastro, June. Everything changed. They had to bring in Trey Turner at the last minute.
Yep.
Inside linebacker, Vince Williams retired. Everything changed. You know, they cut him, brought him back for cheaper because of everything, but then they were banking on him. Everything changed. They had to go out and trade for Joe Schobert. Okay. Defensive line, Stephon Tuitt never came back. Tyson Alualu goes down in week 2. Changed everything. Okay. Those are the three main things. So some of them were personnel outside before the season even started. So if you look at Tuitt as really being before the season even started, it was Tuitt on the defensive line, Williams at inside linebacker, DeCastro at the offensive line, and kind of put the Steelers into we have to react and do something mode. So if it didn't work out, it's because they didn't really have time to fully plan it throughout the offseason. Is that a good point? Or
I think there's merit there. Yeah, I think there's definitely merit there. Yeah.
Yeah. So here we go. Here's Paul Curran says, what are the chances of the Steelers signing the Ravens fullback Ricard?
Probably not very good.
I'd say not very good either, especially with Derek Watt on the roster. And they're like, oh, were you going to cut Derek Watt? Yeah, you could save some money. I'll ask you this question, Geoffrey. What's more likely, a Derek Watt release or a Derek Watt contract extension?
Probably an extension.
I would
I hope
say
for neither. I honestly hope for neither.
Neither is fine too. Neither is fine.
Want,
but if you one or the other, what would you think?
I'd say they'd probably extend him.
That's and knock down that cap hit for this year. Spread it out a little bit more for his use. I just want to see him. He's a great special teams player, but
I want to see Cam Hayward's brother on this team. But I still accept. I'm trying to figure out what will they sign him? Will they draft him and keep Derek Watt on the same roster? Let's do it. I don't care. I want Cam's brother. Oh man.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what this question really was from Richard Adamson. He's like, "Hey guys, do you think the floor is
will they change any draft picks?"
What do you mean?
That affect
meaning who they draft?
If the Steelers plan to fill the linebacker spot in the draft, yes. Mm-hmm. Usage of defensive linemen is very similar between Keith Butler and Brian Flores. Tuitt and Cam Hayward are perfect fits. Tyson Alualu is going to be great in this. Like this, you would go after the same defensive lineman. Inside linebacker, I think, is going to be a different kind of a player than the Joe Schobert, than the Mark Barons, than the Devin Bushes that they've been going to get more coverage ability on the roster. Flores tends to go small when the Steelers have tended to go big in different setups where we'll do 3-4 alignment against what should be nickel. Flores would frequently drop to a blitz heavy dime package against nickel, against what we would have thrown like nickel at. So that could change the kind of linebackers we bring in. That's the spot I would say would probably be affected the most as the inside linebacker.
To me, the Flores hire, does it change what the Steelers do in the draft? What ultimately is going to determine what the Steelers do in the draft is free agency. That is so far the bigger thing than even specifically this coach. Now, I will say what they do in free agency and the draft could be determined based on what they want to do with this kind of defensive scheme. Absolutely. But what they fill in free agency is ultimately going to determine what they do in the draft. I do want to say something for those of you in the live chat. I do realize there was someone in there making some problems. I hadn't even gotten that far because I was saving the questions. But don't worry, I'm trying to keep a better eye to make sure we clean that kind of stuff up. I apologize it was there for as long as it was. Here we go. Greg Schallenberger says, think signing Flores affects Minka staying?
I don't think so. Like I said, I don't think that was at all personal. I think that was scheme. Here he is a free safety, not a strong safety. He will not be coming to the box. He will be playing deep. They'll move him around a bit, but I don't think it will be a problem at all.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, could maybe Minka. I mean, I still think they get the deal done kind of in the same timeline as TJ Watt. I don't know that he's going to do the TJ Watt route of staying out or anything, but I think he's is going to play on his 5th-year option, but hopefully before the season starts, the Steelers can get the extension. But we'll just have to see. If not, Minka's at least here for another year, no matter what. Okay. Trying to find another question. I've got people. What's great is I have a lot of people answering other people's questions, which is nice. Here we go. This is the next one that I found. Nate Van Slyke says, I've heard that they've met with a few different candidates for GM. More than a few. I think it's 7 external and 2 internal at this point. If I have that right. Who would you like to see move into that role after Colbert steps down? Geoffrey, any thoughts?
That is over my head. That is outside my league. I have no idea how to evaluate general managers, right?
Yeah.
I can evaluate Kevin Colbert by looking at like how many of his draft picks worked out, but some of that's not even on that. Some of that scheme, like you look at Sean Davis. Sean Davis was a safety who fit a scheme that we were going to use, and then we changed it, right? Like Justin Lane was drafted in 2019 to be a man cornerback, and all of a sudden we're splitting man and zone, and he doesn't work. He didn't fit what we wanted to do all of a sudden, and he's never really worked out. But he's put in a scheme that doesn't fit him because we changed our defense around, our coverage around a lot, which was good. It worked out well, but it kind of screwed him over. Like there's all kinds of things to go into it. I have a really hard time thinking about GMs in that way. I really don't have an answer.
Yeah, and some people are curious because a lot of everyone's like, "Oh, now go get Riddick." Louis Riddick's never been a GM before. That's one. Two, that could have because there is the Steelers have listed out all the candidates they've interviewed. That is not one of them.
Yep.
I don't know where I can't remember where that report came from, but the Steelers have not acknowledged that was even an interview. I said when it happened, for all I know, if they're going to promote someone from within, that could have been almost gauging an interest. Let's say, for example, a Brandon Hunt was going to be promoted to GM. That might have even been gauging the interest if Riddick would like to come back to Western Pennsylvania and be in charge of scouting for the Steelers or something like that.
Yeah,
but with the fact that the Steelers didn't actually list him as a name, I just wanted to clarify that because a lot of people on some of our YouTube shows, the later comments have made some comments about that. That's the situation where I see it there. I don't think I'd be really surprised if he ends up being in the mix there for the GM. I don't really want to ask you this question, but I'm going to anyway, Geoffrey, just because we said that's what we're going to do. Todd Faraday wants to know, what about Winston at quarterback?
Jameis Winston as a successor to Ben has been a topic for a while, because when you think about Ben when he was younger, the run around, gunsling, take chances, throw up prayers, hope for the best kind of quarterback. Well, Jameis Winston's that kind of a guy, right?
Yeah.
They both worked with Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians compared him a couple of times. Stuff. There's a reason that kind of is out there. If the Steelers brought him in and it was cheap, sure. Why not? Give the guy a shot. He's another, quarterback holding over. As long as you're not devoting serious resources to the quarterback position for a temporary quarterback or a guy who's just good enough to keep you from, just good enough. Like you don't want a Neil O'Donnell. We don't want a Neil O'Donnell right now.
Yeah,
that's not the guy you need. If Winston is cheap enough that we're not investing a ton in him, okay, I'm cool. Otherwise, nah.
And I'm sorry I set the question up the way I did. It's really not that bad. That it's the whole notion of how much money do you want to spend on a player versus how much they are better than your current situation. How much better do Jameis Winston would be than the situation that you have with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins? Is it 10 times better that you're going to pay him 10 times the money? That's the one thing that I want. And that's why with like the whole talk of Jimmy G, I'm like, I don't want to give up the draft capital to get him. I don't want to pay the $24 million his salary is due to be this year, because he's not a huge upgrade over what the Steelers have. I'm not saying that he's not better. I'm just not saying that I don't think he's 6 times better, because that's how much more of a salary cap hit he would be this year. So you've got to be smart with that, and to know if you're going to spend money like that, it's got to be someone that's going to be the answer more than just a bridge. You want someone, if you're going to spend that money, it needs to continue to go through here. Here's a nice, interesting question. Brian, I'm going to say Kane. I'm going to hope I'm right with that. It says, what position is the most important for the Steelers to address this offseason on the offensive line? And where do you think it's done, free agency or the draft? Thanks, guys. Brian from Ireland. It's already tomorrow in Ireland, so we better make sure we give him a quick answer, Geoffrey. Which part of the offensive line do you think they're going to address, and do you think they're going to go draft or free agency to do it?
Trey Turner's not a Steeler. That means we do not have a right guard.
Yes.
And also, in my opinion, I'm okay with Kendrick Green competing for the starting center job. I like centers in the draft too. So for me, right guard, getting an absolute stud right guard in free agency is the move to make, in my opinion, because then if you have to add a stopgap center, if you have to, if you draft a rookie, or even if the Steelers are convinced that Kendrick Green is going to have a really big jump from year 1 to year 2, and he could be that guy, a stud right guard, and Kevin Dotson on the left, or a stud on the left and a new guy on the left and Kevin on the right. However that works, if you got 2 guards, the center's job is a lot easier. So for me, right guard now is the number 1 spot.
I can agree with you wholeheartedly there. I would really like that position. And now some people are saying, well, what about putting Dotson to right guard? if that's what they all want to do, every time I've talked about wanting to move someone on the offensive line, it hasn't worked out the way that I hoped. And the same, so remember that. That's part of the reason why I'm kind of against the Kendrick Green to guard. I think you need to be bigger at guard than you are at center. So if that's the problem, I think it only is going to magnify those problems. I don't know that he's a starting guard in the league, because if he's not a starting center, I don't think he's a starting guard. But just the way he's built, if he can't handle the calls and everything else, and you're thinking, well, he's pretty good otherwise, moving him to guard, I keep saying it over and over again, isn't going to be some magic wand that he all of a sudden is a great player. If he's not good enough at center, he's not going to be good enough at guard. Look
at the history of the Steelers guards. They're huge.
Yeah.
We like big guards.
Yes. So that's how I feel there. I would not be shocked if they do not add anything at center, if they just bring back J.C. Hassenauer as his exclusive rights free agent and really try to bolster other things around them, around other spots. But they need a couple linemen, and I'm okay. I'm okay if it's one free agency, one draft, two free agency, one draft. However they do it, I would be upset if they don't do it at all in free agency. Do you think that's fair, Geoffrey?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. They've got to do something in free agency and not just completely rely on the draft for that, and I wouldn't mind them spending big capital on the draft, because as I pointed out, all those years, this is an article that I'm going to finally, lay out for people. All those years of the Steelers having multiple first round draft picks on their offensive line, Kendrick Green was the highest drafted player on the Steelers line this past year. Even if they weren't drafted by the Steelers, that's just what they had. We're going to do two more. We're getting towards our time here. I told Geoffrey I wouldn't keep him too late, and I also told my wife I wouldn't be too late doing this either. So I want to answer this one, Geoffrey, because this one's quick. Okay. Randy Sears wants to know, is there any chance the Steelers trade or release Edmonds? If you're talking about Terrell Edmonds, the answer is there is zero chance they do that, because Edmonds is a free agent. He is not on the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have to re-sign him. So there's no trade, there's no release. Now, his brother, Trey, was given a futures contract. So I'll ask a follow-up question, Geoffrey. Do you think that the Steelers re-sign Terrell Edmonds?
Absolutely. I think that is a priority signing. And I imagine they have something in place. He actually, I think he really fits Brian Flores, how Brian Flores used defensive backs. And he is really developed under Terrell Austin. I don't think there's any reason they wouldn't try to bring him back.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to go with one more question. I'm sorry for those of you that put some in later on that we just didn't get to them, but this is what we were trying to do. I'm going to go back. Started with him, got the name right apparently. I'll see if I get it right again this time. Eugene Chirikov. I think I got it again. I almost missed the first I. Okay. He said last year Haskins was really good in preseason and training camp. Do you think he has a chance to be a QB1, or we will bring someone in? My question is, do you agree with that first statement, Geoffrey, that he was really good in preseason and training camp?
He showed a lot. When you simplified the game down, when you took it out of being, how good are you in this offense or that offense or whatever, Haskins can throw the ball around. I thought he showed quite a decent bit, but he has the physical tools. He has a cannon of an arm. He can move around. He's good in those ways. The question is, can he handle, when the game gets complicated? Can he handle all the calls? Can he be that guy? Because that's kind of been the question mark on him.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know that he looked that, he didn't step up in a big way in his big chance in the last preseason game. There's reports of how seriously he took stuff when he was in, I'm not worried about that. My thing is, come in next year, show what you can do. But technically, he's still not on the Steelers. There was the report they're going to offer the original round tender as a restricted free agent. It hasn't been official yet because it couldn't have been, and he still has to sign it and everything. But all I have to say is this: if someone else wants to sign Dwayne Haskins and give the Steelers their first round pick, that is something I would definitely be in favor of. Wouldn't you, Geoffrey?
That'd be fantastic. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I would allow it to happen.
Yeah, and because I brought this up, I'm going to do one last question from Reginald Rivers. He says, how many draft picks do the Steelers have? I'll run through real quick. Without compensatory draft picks, they have first, second, third, sixth from Kansas City, but we don't know which one from Kansas City. I think that's what's the conditional part, because Kansas City had their own and somebody else's. Don't know which one the Steelers have for sure. And they have 2 sevenths, their own and from the Jets, from where they traded their 5th to the Jets. And they are projected right now to get 1 4th-round compensatory draft pick. So that's what the Steelers have. If they get a 4th-round pick, that means that they have no 5th and 2 7ths. So they would have the 7 picks. So, Geoffrey, anything you want to say, want to plug, or anything here before we call it a show?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Well, you and
I'll say I am going to be doing a Brian Flores film room. Kevin Smith is doing it as well. We're covering it. I was working on one for the offensive line coach. Now I'm working on 2. But I'm doing one on Brian Flores, his defense against the LA Rams in the 2018 Super Bowl. I'm going to be looking at that and showing what he wants to do, because that's a game where his defense worked.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, just look at the scoreboard and it seems like that would be the case. I want to just, give you a quick rundown. We did this show tonight because we didn't have a regular Sunday show, no post-game show, anything like that. We're working on that. We had something that the podcast producers pulling overtime was something, but until that comes through, we're like, hey, let's just come in and take questions and do the Q&A, because sometimes that's what you all that are here in the live chat like the most. So, but otherwise, we've got our full lineup, especially on YouTube and Facebook Live, that's staying the same, with the Hangover Monday, Scobro Show Tuesday, Geoffrey and Michael with the Curtain Call Wednesday, Steelers preview, even though we're not previewing a game, we preview wherever we can, with the triumphant trio of myself and Bad and Jeff. Then we've got Tony on Friday, and we've got the Aussies on Saturday. We'll still be coming with those YouTube shows. Then we have the regular morning lineup, which is your Let's Ride Monday, Wednesday, Friday, your Live Mic Tuesday, Stat Geek Thursday, and we have our noon lineup. Some of it's getting shifted around. Geoffrey, you're still on Tuesday, right?
Yep.
With your cutting room floor. Great show last week. I do just want to say that while I have the chance to say that. I know we have the Jeremy Betts' show, which was the Fantasy Fix. I can't remember what angle he's taken in the offseason. So you've got to make sure you tune in. And Andrew Wilbar has been joining him on that. I'm pretty sure the way it's going down is that War Room is moving to Wednesdays, and what Yin's talking about is going to be on Thursdays. And then Brian and Kevin's show that they did as a pregame show, they're sticking around to do a show together on Fridays. It could be a little bit off with that, but we've got a lot coming. And Bad might also be bringing you out something else special on the weekends that with something a little bit different. That's in the works. We have a number of things in the works. So make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel so you can get the alerts whenever we go live. Make sure you are missing a lot of content if you aren't doing the audio podcast. You can get them anywhere podcasts are fine, free. I know Apple Podcasts is a big one. That's what I use. That's what most people use when we see our numbers coming in. You subscribe, they send it to you. They send you everything we got. But Spotify, I don't even know the names of all the other ones. But make sure you're checking us out. Geoffrey, thanks for coming on tonight. I really appreciate that. That allowed me to sort through some questions while you gave some great answers that were much better than what I would have given. So thank you all. And, it's the off season. It doesn't matter. We're still going to end it this way. We'll just have to say, go Steelers.